What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Panthers Nation Network. Apologies for the technical difficulties last week. Iris, you know what you did, all right? But if you had listened to the episode, you'd have heard us say that, look, you got to make something happen this next week, because if not, the fan base is going to start slipping. You had it on the wake of Steve Smith calling them, a soft city, which is a crazy thing to say for a team that has been historically bad the last few years.
That's facts.
So that was something that needed to happen. Of course, maybe it was for the best that they couldn't hear all of our, questions, comments, and concerns, because they might have been too, if they do listen, might have been too sad to hear it.
Look, man, I told you on the episode that never came out that we had a chance.
Yep.
I didn't think 30-0 would be like how you won, but shit, I'm all for it, bro. I'm with it.
Look, it was the first shutout since 2020 up against the Lions, and a team that was still coached by Matt Patricia, if that gives you any indication of what that Lions team was about at the time. And that in that game also, P.J. Walker threw 2 picks in the red zone, and we still shut them out and won the game. You had your first defensive touchdown since 2023 against the Dolphins.
Okay.
First pick 6 as well since 2023. We'll dive into it. I think maybe I didn't go to the first 2 games because they were on the road, but I was in the bank. So maths there, right? The math is mathing.
I'm gonna be honest, man. Nothing that we can do gonna change the results of these games, man. I'm gonna be so for real with you. We thought Matt was the problem at first. He went to the first.
Yeah, but then he went to this game. So,
but he was he was at this one too. So it's like
he survives another week, right? Yeah. Look, I don't know. It was a different looking team out there from so many different perspectives. You go out, you didn't know if you were going to have XL. You don't play. Jimmy Horn still is not dressed out. I don't understand that. You would have figured, okay, you're down a receiver, bring in Jimmy Horn. Mm-hmm. I don't understand the logic there. But, you get a first drive touchdown, which was the first drive touchdown since 2016 of last year, which doesn't sound like a long time. But if you watch the first 2 first drives this season, you know that it could have very well turned out to be 7 points for the other team.
No, absolutely. And look, bro, I got to give credit to Dave Canales on how he started that game out.
Yeah.
The sequencing and the play calling to start the game felt intentional, felt like he had an actual plan, and it was quarterback friendly.
100%.
And that was my biggest concern. Our biggest concern over the last couple of weeks is, hey, look, maybe let's make this easier for our guy, because we didn't think Bryce was playing bad. We thought that things just weren't going our way. You had maybe you asked him to do a little too much, and guys aren't coming through. I thought he definitely simplified it. Went back to what helped us at the end of last year. Started to lean on that run game a little bit more, which is what I've been asking for the first couple of weeks, and I thought we started to see the difference.
Yeah, I mean, that first drive, you saw a bunch of big plays. You saw how much, T-Mac only had, sub 50 yards, but that looks a lot different on the box score than it actually was in the game, because those are big plays, big-time plays where you needed them to be. And it really showed just kind of his impact early on. And even, there's still some missteps. He almost had the touchdown on the other end of the end zone. Almost hit me in the face. I was standing right there, and I could feel the wind coming off of that ball. Bryce zipped it in there. But what I like then, you get to the red zone, you're like, okay, there's a run that gets stopped. Okay, there's a pass that's incomplete. Third down, what are you going to do here? It's 3rd and goal. And I like that, what you just mentioned. We saw what we had been clamoring to see from Bryce, because in the second half of last year, really what got a lot of that momentum going, if you look back at those games, the first offensive drive was a Bryce Young scramble touchdown. You saw it in Arizona. You saw it in Tampa, against Tampa Bay at home. You saw it in Arizona as well. So to get that first touchdown off of him scrambling, I thought that really showed that he's kind of keying back into what the offense can be.
No, absolutely. Playing with the level of maturity that it's going to take to win a lot of these games. You look at the first 2, a lot of what hampered us was that, hey, we spotted teams' points within the first 5-10 minutes of the game. So again, being able to recognize, hey, look, it's not there. I need to go make this play, because, mind you, on the XL pick in the first game, that was a down where he probably could have just ran at and took it for the first down himself. Taking it upon himself to go make that play, taking care of the football as well. These are the things that help you win games consistently.
Yeah, and I think that also, to their credit, I'm still questioning the call-up of Chandler Zavala in that spot. It was the first game, Cade Mays in at center fully. The 2 of them, Cade Mays specifically, it looked like night and day different, right? Because you knew you had 2 defensive ends that were coming for something a little bit more in this game, and Jalen Walker and James Pierce Jr. They both got, quote-unquote, passed over, for the Panthers, both hometown kids. And I think they did incredibly well with the pass rush to where Bryce really had the time to do what he needed to do. Or at the very least, even if it wasn't looking downfield, because we'll get to that in a minute, he was still able to get the ball where it needed to be. You know, there was very few like forced passes, overthrows. Like Bryce was able to be accurate because he had the time to be accurate. Now you'll say, okay, well, you can't have the time you need all the time, so you have to work to be more accurate without that.
Right.
That's as we're moving going forward. But I really think that the offensive line, to be called up the way they were needed to be with Cade Mays and Zavala, I think did very well against his pass rush.
No, absolutely. And like you said, with Chandler Zavala is hey, can we see this consistently?
Yeah.
I think Cade Mays. I think we have much more of a a solidified feeling about what he can be because
100%.
he was the guy that helped us at the end of last year when we started to establish the ground game and we started to establish our identity on offense. So I have no real worries there. Zavala though, you're replacing a guy that that is supposed to be a staple on the offensive line in Robert Hunt.
Yeah.
So we need you to be solid. Can we get this consistently from you? I'm still a bit worried because he's got a matchup this week that's gonna test that for sure. A guy that we should actually know pretty well because we tried to get him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But if again huge test, but it's also a huge opportunity though. Go out there this week and you hold your own. Then I think that it changes how everybody can feel about the rest of the season.
Yeah, and I'm starting to understand why. I guess they keep with him and not do anything with Brady Christensen. I guess the fear is that, if a different lineman goes down, well, then you need Christensen to fall into line there.
Right.
So I understand that from that perspective, although even though when Ickey was out, it was still, Zavala feeding on the outside. So there was still some questions there. But regardless, I do think that, they've got a plan in place for that specifically. Of course, there's now been some other injuries. JT Sanders, he looks like he didn't practice for that ankle. He tweaked it on that big play. He got hit. And I'm like, every time you touch the ball, when you actually do catch it, something happens to your body. Like, come on, man. So he won't be playing more than likely. So you're going to go with Tremble and Evans. But from the from the 2 possessions I've seen of Evans, the 2 passes he's gotten, it has seemed I think they're very solid.
I feel confident in Mitchell Evans, man. I think he was one of those underrated grabs that we got in the draft. And if if a guy had to step up and play for us, I like it to be him. And also, you do have a veteran in Tommy Tremble out there, so I do feel like, hey, look, at least there's a veteran presence out there that he can lean on, that he can spitball back and forth with. I think as a receiving tight end, he's a different kind of threat than JT Sanders is, but I think a threat nonetheless.
Absolutely. Now, we talk about XL. Obviously, he was called right before the game. He has not practiced this week, assuming he's probably not going to be in for this game. And then T-Mac he didn't practice on Wednesday. He was a limited practice on Thursday for, a quote-unquote calf injury. So not really sure. I assume, as of right now, I would imagine he practices. Canales has been kind of wonky about if you don't practice the full week, being hesitant. And they've been, from the beginning with T-Mac, incredibly hesitant. I remember he got knocked up a little bit in minicamp, in rookie minicamp, and then he didn't practice the next 2 days. Same in training camp. There was a couple days where he had a couple scuffles, and he didn't practice after that for a little bit. So they're being very, very conservative with T-Mac to the point where I could see them not using him this week, which I don't know. I mean, you have Patriots have their cornerback who's going to be healthy. Looks like for the game, which is a bit different story. Yeah. But then for me, if you're down Jatavion Sanders, you're down XL, you might be down T-Mac. Dress Jimmy Horn.
You would think. Yeah, I think you're going to be pressed into dressing them, but they also didn't they bring in a guy, or was it Dan Chisena?
If they dress out Dan Chisena for actual offensive snaps, when not only do you have Jimmy Horn, but if you go past it, you still have Bryson Tremaine, who's had minutes. You got Dale Von Campbell, who's been a special teams guy, but we can see he's made plays at least in training camp, right? So, and if you dress Dan Chisena, everything that I have thought positively and will say about you positively on this podcast as the episode goes along, Canales, I will rebuke. Because what in the world was Jimmy Horn's purpose? And every single week, like, he's not on the injury designation list.
Yeah.
He's not on IR.
He's just not dressing.
So, like, why? And then you saw it now, like, ETN, when we'll talk, about other performance. You're not getting a punt return again, brother.
Yeah, it's over with.
Because you almost ruined, at the time we thought, okay, this is where they start to come back. And then retroactively, you almost ruined the shutout, right? Because you gave them the fact that the Falcons cut Young Ho Koo was a godsend in and of itself because they would have won, but they would at least had 6 points.
Hey, man, justice for Young Hoku, man. You know what I'm saying? Parker Romo, that man may actually be a terrorist. he may actually be a terrorist, dog. He is a threat to the community. You know what I'm saying? He bombing shit from everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, and makeable ones too. Sub 50-yarders.
These were very makeable.
They were not.
Now, like in my fan brain, when that like as he was lining up the kick, I'm like, bro, he gonna miss it.
Yeah.
He gonna miss it. Now, I had no idea. He was
the ball knower was like, there's no way.
Because everybody in the bank tends to make kicks. I've never seen anybody miss a field goal in Bank of America except for us.
I've seen us miss a couple. I've seen the Bucks miss like that overtime game.
Yeah.
They both missed a couple. But very rarely, like, and those were far ones too. They weren't like easy ones to miss. They were easy to miss. This was ridiculous.
I've seen, bro. I think we've seen people hit like damn near like a 60-yarder in the bank.
Yeah, 100%. So I don't know what happened. And credit to Ryan Fitzgerald making his career long.
That is
57-yarder was awesome. And it really drove the momentum forward, right? Like it wasn't in a time where you needed it, but to get points from that far back after you put yourself in that position because of penalties, which is another thing that still needs to be talked about. If there's any qualms I had on offense, penalties, the discipline still needs to be shored up. And I get with rotating line, Cade May's in there trying to get the snap and hear the play calls. I understand it, but you gotta get that worked out.
Yeah.
Outside of that, I still have some slight qualms with Canales' play calling, and more so situationally, right?
Mm-hmm.
Again, I don't know why they love calling hospital routes for Hunter Renfrow. It seems like every route that he's supposed to be is like him about to get just, T-boned.
Yeah.
Every time. Or a screen, which, again, I don't really need to see a screen for Hunter Renfrow.
I did think the one they ran the red zone, or I think that was the drive that we scored with Rico Dallo at the one.
Yeah.
I thought that I did like that.
Well, because at that point he's just calling plays out his pot. Like there's nothing.
It was nothing really there. We were up 20-0.
But like the beginning of the game.
No, you're absolutely
and
right.
I don't know credit to who was in coverage and if he was locking up whoever he would have been on. I don't think so. To not have AJ Terrell on the field, I would. I like that we did do the run. But I would have liked to push the ball downfield a little bit.
But I think who you gonna push it to?
Why would you not push it to T-Mac, right? Like you did.
I thought they tried.
They tried. Like the one ball, I don't know what the hell happened. The one pass that was a catch, Chuba did catch it. The one that went over T-Mac, and Chuba was there. Mm-hmm. You look at the all 22 of it, and there's that one Falcons fan that's trying to bash Bryce on Twitter, saying he's a bad quarterback because it would have been a touchdown for Chuba. He was throwing it off of his back foot, like he wasn't pressed. There was coverage around him.
Threw it off his back foot. Ball was tipped.
Yeah. So like I assume it was supposed to go to Chuba in the first place because Chuba did have grass.
Yeah.
And if it was let in front of him, he would have scored. But the way that's to show like it looked like it was a pass for T-Mac with how much he was throwing it off his back foot and how much it got tipped. Right. So I'm not taking away credit for him, but I will say I did think you could have still pressed the envelope to T-Mac a bit more without AJ Terrell on the field.
I don't know. I think T-Mac had like 8 targets in that game.
Yeah, 8 targets, but I think about 4 receptions.
3 or 4 receptions. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you tried. I think you actually tried. I think in this game, even though they didn't have AJ Terrell, who's the other threat to at least help out?
That's the thing. If XL was on the field or if Jalen Coker was on the field, you probably would have had a bit more of a.
Yeah, I at least run XL on a clear
That's
out
fair.
and just to at least press the defense.
That's fair.
You know.
But I will say positively, we talked about the run game a little bit. I loved finally getting Rico Dowdle involved.
Boy, needed it.
Finally
needed it. I thought that this is where that was why I was excited about the signing in the offseason. I'm like, hey, let those two feed off of each other. Let those two get into a rhythm. And there are going to be games where you don't need Bryce Young to throw for 300 yards.
No.
And this was one of those games where I was very much happy that Bryce didn't have to do too much. He didn't need to, because I thought the offense still performed admirably even without it. Like you said, when you bring in K. Mays, who is, we know once he comes into the game, I feel better about our run blocking when he's in the lineup.
100%.
Sure. But again, when you had opportunity, when you got Rico Dowdle in those opportunities, I thought he started seeing it well. I thought him and Chuba both played it just about the same with their patience hitting the hole, finding the gaps. You know what I'm saying? Turning what could have been like 2-3 yard gains into 5-6.
100%.
Keeping the defense on the field, man. Staying ahead of the sticks. Those are the things that make it easier for your quarterback. And then you look at what you can do off the play action.
That's finally what we were looking for, right? That was the whole like get Bryce out of the pocket. You've got these lateral wide receivers that can make stuff happen on these first two levels, and then you have deep threats as well. Rico showed he can be a great screen. Like I liked seeing screens to Rico. I liked that.
Yeah, I was tired of him just being the designated blocking back.
100%.
And I'm like, he also has the same ability, if not. I actually feel a bit more comfortable with Rico catching the ball in the backfield than I do Chuba, just knowing how long it took Chuba to even get to that point. Rico has always felt like a more natural pass catcher out of the backfield, so I was waiting to see if they would ever get him on any of those routes out of the backfield.
I think their skill sets complement each other really well, and they're very interesting, right? I think Chuba has the better ability to wait to find the hole and then burst through it once he's found it. I think he's got better lateral, side to side, whereas Rico, I think he has a better burst in that exact moment. Like his acceleration, I think, is a little bit better. And I also think from what we saw against the Falcons, maybe he was just getting the better of that defensive line. It seemed he had the better push after contact.
It did feel like that.
Because there was one or two, and like I think that's what for some of those short yardage situations, like there was that 3rd and 5 that it looked like he was dead to rights, and he still got the push to get the first down.
Yep.
Chuba adds some like in that first touchdown drive. Chuba gets stuffed early in that line of scrimmage. And whether, Rico just like the two of them, I think when you get the two of them going, you get the defensive line on their heels. They don't know if they're going to have to catch, or try to plug up the hole.
Yeah.
And so I think when you have the two of them doing that at the same time, it allows for your rushing attack to be, actually effective. So continue upon that. I think there was a very good, like, dissemination of the play calling. Everybody kind of got a piece of the pot.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a little surprising to think that Rico is a better short yardage runner than Chuba. Because so for some reason, I always think that Chuba is supposed to be a much better short yardage back than what he is. And I think it's because of the, obviously the explosiveness he has from his trap background. I'm thinking like, hey, we should be able to run these short yardage situations with you. But it feels like as we continue to move on throughout the season, it feels like Rico may be the guy you want to call on, either him or Etienne. If Etienne gets see the field again.
I mean, even that second drive that didn't turn, that one drive that didn't turn into a touchdown because of the penalties, but it was like first and 10, second and 10, and they run the halfback draw, and Rico gets stuffed at the line of scrimmage, and then bounces around and finds green grass somehow. I think Chuba is the better, like you talk about that track ability. I think it's like a sprint versus a long distance runner. I think the minute Chuba finds that hole in green grass, he's liable to take it the distance almost every time. Whereas Rico, I think he just runs with straight power, and he keeps those. I think his legs churn a little bit better, and I think that's where you saw, like, in that, like, you keep your center of gravity up, and you can allow for yourself to get those extra yards that you need. Chuba, I think, runs with his head not straight down, but like we've seen him break away and break through.
Yeah.
So I think that's been, but with the way that this offense has kind of been called, because you don't really see it that, like, we don't have 50-plus yard runs in this offense. I don't know if it's not just designed, the line's not there for it, or if you're not scheming at the proper times. The longest we've seen from Chuba really, a couple 20, 30-yard touchdowns, like the one against the Cardinals sticks out, and that was running in between the tackles. He finds that final hole, makes a move outside. Because once he gets to that second level, he is dangerous from either making you miss or running past you. Yeah. And so I think with Rico, though, if it's 3rd and 5, 3rd and short, I think that's the reason why they put him in on that last touchdown. Because Chuba, I think, could have easily gotten it.
I thought so, too. I thought they were going to give it to him, just to let him cap that drive off. But it was kind of for me, it felt like a statement, especially considering that you didn't get that in week 1.
Yeah. And I think you saw it was kind of indicative to what you saw last year, in Jonathan Brooks' first game. They shouldn't have done it because they could have won that ball game had they not tried to press him 3 times. But you could tell, like we talked about, like Canales develops trust in players off of output, and which is kind of a double-edged sword because you can't provide output. You can't produce output until you're given the opportunity, but he won't give you the opportunity until you produce output. So I think that's, like, you saw him trying to push the envelope of Jonathan last year, and I think that last drive, like you said, was him trying to push the envelope for Rico Dowdle. And now that he's gotten it, I think we might start to see a more even play calling throughout the year, which I think is going to only be beneficial. If you get a 2 running back system, we know specifically in Carolina how well it can work. Yeah. You see it in Detroit last year in how little it will not work if you mess it up. So I think that I think it's only good to do so, and I think you're exactly right. I think it was kind of a statement. Because Chuba doesn't need any charity touchdowns, right?
Nah.
It's not whether contractually he's getting paid regardless. Rico's probably got some incentives where he needs that touchdown.
No, absolutely, and not only that, Rico's a new face of this team.
Yeah,
he's a new face of this team. He's a guy that I think definitely is trying to prove something after the year he had in Dallas last year.
Yeah,
because if you kept up with his career, he's been around for a little minute and just hasn't gotten those opportunities to be the star guy to get the majority of the touches until last year. So I think definitely a statement for him. I think it's a good confidence booster moving forward. But I also think Bryce is going to benefit greatly because I believe Bryce at this point is at a place now where I'm not nearly as when it's called. I feel like when it's called correctly and it's set up right, I believe Bryce is gonna make the correct play more times than not. I think the instances where we saw it in the first two games, I think he tried something that I think most times you don't feel like it should turn into a catastrophic play, like how the interception in week 1 turned out and how the drive to start the game against the Cardinals turned out. Like I think you don't necessarily think like, hey, bro, no shot. That shot I fumble right here. They scoop and score.
No,
bro.
right?
Like no shot, right? On the first play of the game, no way.
Like there's a difference between Marcus Mariota's old ass running 20 yards, trying to get a touchdown when you should be in retirement, and then getting the ball punched to Timbuktu. There's a difference.
I was simply trying to drop back, y'all.
Right. Like that's all. I mean, the rush was in his face the minute he caught that snap, and I think it's very indicative. And that's what always has pressed me about the switch up on Bryce when there are turnovers that go into targeting him outside of targeting the system put in place.
Yeah.
I don't want to be an apologist for it, but it's the same thing we were saying about Cam Newton.
Yeah.
Cam Newton would turn the ball over or force plays when he felt like he was the only person out there that could do anything. And we know for a fact Bryce Young in his first season felt like he was the only one that could do anything. They were hinging all of their hopes on him, trading away stars to get him here, providing him with a less than desirable cast of characters to give him that, setup, including especially the line of scrimmage. Because if you had Robert Hunt and Damian Lewis that first season, I think some games go a bit different direction.
No, they absolutely could have. But I mean, in that first year, man, I just think you were doomed to fail. Simply because you just had no receivers.
Yeah.
Not one of those guys that were on that 23 team are starting.
Yeah, 100%.
Like none of them.
None of them.
Like Thielen only, and no offense to Thielen, but Thielen got to start a little bit longer because he was playing with us.
Oh yeah.
But I don't know if he could still be like. I mean, we're watching him in Minnesota right now. He's running cardio.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
No, 100%. And it's like indicative of what, like we talk about rookie quarterbacks, we talk about quarterbacks in general, right? And the systems that they're set up in and what it's, going to, like, what they're actually going to be able to achieve. In my mind, like you look at New York. All right, well, if Russell Wilson isn't getting the job done, I understand that it's new and it's flashy, but what are your realistic expectations for Jackson Dart in that situation?
Lame duck head coach, trying to save his job, about to thrust a rookie into a spot where now we're going to start judging the rookie for what he can't do, and that's a good Chargers team that they're playing. I got the Chargers are one of them teams that I think they're gonna make they're making a run at a Super Bowl this year.
If they can get out of their own way,
yeah,
and they can get over the hump of some of these teams that they're going to be playing, because Baltimore needs to get out of its own way.
Baltimore does too, but I think the Chargers. I don't think there's many of them in the. I don't think there's many teams in their way right now. I think Kansas City's still really trying to figure things out.
100%.
Even once they get their receivers back, I don't think it instantly clicks for that team.
100%.
Baltimore.
I know. I'm sorry. But you keep going. Or look at Cam Ward in Tennessee. Yeah. He's putting up numbers that he should not be putting up in Tennessee. He's making Eric. I can't pronounce his last name for the life of me. Look like
the kid from Stanford. He's nice though. That
he
was.
Nice. He should not have been drafted as low as he was.
No, absolutely not.
But regardless, but then how good can you do when you have Brian Callahan as your head coach and then the defense is abysmal and you're trading away a safety that y'all got for nothing? It's ridiculous. So that's the same thing I'm saying. I don't want to apologize for Bryce Young, but that same kind of setup be because I can hear the voices now. Oh, so Bryce can only do good when the system's made perfectly for him? No, but if it's actively working against him.
Look, just for those that don't understand, there are only a handful of quarterbacks in the league at a time that can probably outplay what's being called by the coach. There at the time it was Brady, Manning and Breeze and cats like that, and there were Luck and Cam.
Yeah.
There ain't a whole lot of those. they're the only guys that we probably feel like for sure can play through whatever going on with the coaching staff is Pat Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, and aside from that, I'm iffy on whether I want to throw a Herbert in there.
Yeah, me too.
I thought Herbert's outplayed some of what his coaching has been, and he's kind of caught the heat for what they didn't have in the coaching
100%.
staff.
I'm even hesitant to put like this year's Mahomes on that list.
Yeah, because even he feels like he's really feeling the brunt of, dog, it's just not getting called.
Yeah.
I'm not playing. I don't think he's playing well, even regardless of what
That's what I'm saying. We know he doesn't he didn't know how to read defenses until however many years ago.
Yeah.
So Lord knows what play calling actually needs to be done in that regard. Same with Joe Burrow, but it's not that hard to call plays when you've got Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. You see them throw it to them. That's all you really got to call. So I agree with that too. And so I think if they can continue along this path,
right?
Because, and it's crazy to say it.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy to say it, and I hear it coming out of my mouth, and it's going to be crazy to say. I'm gaining more trust in the defense.
Boy, yeah.
As we get along.
Yeah.
Because we talked about it. You didn't hear it on the podcast that didn't go out.
Right.
We said, even after the 2 turnovers in the first quarter, it was still only 10 to nothing. Then it was 10-3, 13-3. It was a 10-point game.
Yeah.
After you let up a scoop and score and an abhorrent pick.
Yeah.
They did not break. There was multiple times where they got the offense the ball back, and it was lack of dynamic play calling that stopped you from scoring.
Yep.
And in this game as well, not to say that the Falcons should be lighting it up on offense, right? Every week now, Marvin Harrison looks like a bigger bust for the Cardinals. Trey McBride can only do so much.
Right.
The Jags, what we thought, I guess, was dynamic offense is starting to trickle down a little bit, and Brian Thomas is having a sophomore slump hitherto unseen.
Bro, that is the 180 with him is kind of scary. I'm not gonna lie.
It is.
I ain't seen nothing like that. But Marvin Harrison Jr. is a bit concerning too.
100%. So it's not like we've been playing offensive juggernauts, mind you,
Mm-hmm.
but to pitch a shutout in any game in the NFL is a hard thing to do. And especially when they had the ball on they never make it past the 30-yard line is crazy. Even coming off of a muffed punt.
Yeah.
They never got to go past the 30-yard line. And or maybe it was the 20. Either way, that's a crazy stat in and of itself. You didn't get after the quarterback, but you provided a lot of pressure on a young guy, making him throw it into the dirt. Because every time, especially on third down, Michael Penix dropped back, there was not a receiver around. It was intentional grounding territory.
And here's one thing that happened that I know we've been asking for. Dog, they finally sent extra bodies at the quarterback.
I know.
And you see what happened. You finally let Trevor Amorek play his style of play that he played in Vegas that made you even want to go get him. Saw a world of difference with that.
100%.
Saw more speed on the field near the line of scrimmage. Not allowed guys can't just break it outside like how they usually do. Penix tried to take off one time.
Not going to happen.
That's not going.
Because Scorton in his first start, you're not going to see it on the box score, but the pressures were there.
Yeah.
The rushes were there. He was getting off of his blockers, and to the point where they were either just throwing it really quickly, Penix was not taking a sack.
No. But you know who else had a very good game that I know nobody's gonna mention? DJ Johnson.
I was waiting for it.
He had a really good game.
He had a really good game.
Go back and watch it. And again, stat sheet won't tell you that.
And the bar was low.
Bar may have been in hell.
The bar was very low.
But nonetheless, I thought the boy had a great game.
For the necessity of having him, right?
Right.
Pat Jones doesn't play. Turk Wharton's not in. Bobby Brown was feeling himself. He was able to play. You have DJ Wanham still, has shown where he's going to have his impact. I think this was finally the first time I had seen a defense by committee. And some of the best formations they had, you talk about, they would have Nick Scott and Lathan Ransom laid back in coverage and Moehrig damn near on the line of scrimmage.
Hey, and credit to Lathan Ransom for his growth. And it's kind of been exponential because where we thought he would be in terms of once we drafted him, we had him pegged for the same role that Moehrig would play. So we didn't quite understand why they picked him up. But where he's coming to his own as a cover safety, being able for the coaches to be able to trust him to go out there, allow for Moehrig to play more of his natural state, and how it unlocks that defense is going to be huge moving forward. I'm hoping for just just continuous growth throughout the season. We know growth for rookies isn't linear. There are going to be pitfalls, but seeing what he can provide, seeing the attitude he brings on the field,
100%.
I love
that
it, bro.
kid lights it up,
Bro.
And he's been that way since minicamp.
Yeah.
He will take your head off, and it comes from, I think, what needs to be talked about more as one of the best defensive back duos in the league.
Ooh, talk about it.
From a PFF standpoint, and from, everyone loves that little T chart, that little cross chart, and JC and Mike Jack are right here and here.
Mm-hmm.
And JC had Drake London in a
One
high
time
chair.
Bay.
In a high chair the entire game. There was nothing that could be done. Darnell Mooney, I'm not going to give you flowers for locking up Darnell Mooney, but
Mooney kind of locked up himself. Some of those drops that he
did.
had.
But Mike Jack was also all over the field. The two of them together are ridiculous, and I think that's allowed for you to have more faith in putting in guys like Ransom, allowing Nick Scott to be there, sending Morig up to rush when you don't really need to, that allows for you to do a lot of different things. And in my perspective, that is what we haven't seen in a while. And that's what we've seen in successful teams for the Panthers has been defensive back rooms that really dominate, regardless of who it is on the field. You talk about Thieves Avenue, and that's Trey Boston, Kurt Coleman, Josh Norman, guys that weren't household names. And then you have your Wiley Vets, right, and your Cortland Finnegans, your Captain Munnerlands, your Charles Tillmans, God forbid, even
did we mention Roman Harper?
Roman Harper, thank you. I was old heads.
Yeah, some OGs.
Old heads. And then even going back farther into the first Super Bowl era, Mike Minter, Ricky Manning,
Reggie Howard.
That would annoy the life out of the receivers.
Yeah.
Because they're like, who are these guys?
Right.
Who are these bums that are playing like this? There's no way they should be playing like this.
Look, man, Mike Jack, bro, for what, because he knows he's gonna get the majority of the targets throughout the course of the game. Because people,
and he welcomes it.
He does welcome it. People don't even try JC at this point. And JC again, to the same point we had, I want to say right before the season started. JC, it feels like we never see him out of position. He feels like he always plays it right. Now again, knock on wood.
He almost had one pick.
Oh man,
that one he was right there with it. It went right through his hands.
Got to bring those in. We need that.
I don't think he was expecting, because I think it went through Moon. It was either over Mooney or it went through Mooney's hands.
Yeah.
So I don't think he expected it to be there either.
No, absolutely.
But bring it in.
I just look at how Mike Jack recovers after plays get made. Like there may be one play, but it typically isn't back to back, and it typically isn't to the point where teams are gonna we're gonna pick on him for the rest of the drive. I've seen him hold it down. Like I said, the most I've probably ever seen him get picked on was when there were games where JC just didn't play.
Yeah.
But
like the Mike Evans game.
Yeah.
But it's Mike Evans.
So I mean, I'm taking Mike Evans.
Talk to a wall. I don't care. I'm trying to think of the Falcons game and a play that I really was like, oh, he got burned in coverage there. Like there was busted coverage. Why was he wide open?
Not only can I not think of any busted coverage plays, there were plays made against Bijan Robinson one-on-one.
Oh my God!
He makes that where I can't remember the play. I can't remember when it was, but that play, if he doesn't make that tackle, Bijan's hitting his head on the goalpost.
And same with and I loved how they attacked Bijan Robinson. They were not afraid.
Rally up, group, game tackling.
They were on the sideline, and Lathan Ransom popped him.
Yeah,
he picked up 7 yards, and he popped him. I think it was Morig had the tackle behind the line of scrimmage on a screen, if I'm not mistaken, and laid him down. And they handled the running attack really well, because even in years past, if they've locked up Bijan Robinson or, even old buddy's not in the league anymore, Todd Gurley, right? Tyler Algier would still have a contract
I was
game.
kind of banking on Tyler Algier being like, okay, he's gonna probably make the plays and everything like that. But now they kept him in check.
I think Avero was coaching for his life. I think Avero could hear that if they let up another 20-point game, another 25-point game, that he was going to be done.
No, absolutely. And I would say he's going into a game this week where, while I do like Dre May and what he brings from a physical perspective, and he's gonna air it out. Like Dre May's gonna get probably 30 attempts at it if they're not running the ball well. That offensive line isn't necessarily the surest thing. Will Campbell's also having some struggles. I like the idea of, we going right after him.
I want to, because
if they're not going to give him any tight end help, now Hunter Henry's going to get his touches.
He is.
I've
already got him on fantasy. It's
absolutely, and that's their best receiving option. I just think as a receiver group, there isn't a singular guy. Doesn't mean that they can't have a day, but there isn't a singular guy that's like, okay, I'm gonna make the play. Because I like my matches across the board as far as their receiver room.
I'm gonna take a quick sidebar and say to the entire Panthers fan base, you're welcome. Because on fantasy, I picked up the Falcons' defense. The Cardinals had just gotten however many points on defense the week before, so I figured, you know what, let me pick up the Falcons' defense. Never in my life. If I'd been better off picking the Panthers' defense.
Hey, I'm gonna tell you what I did. So I put a parlay in, right?
Oh, no. Oh, no.
I did take the over on the Michael Penix yards, and I did put Tyler Algier down for a touchdown. Couldn't have expected we were going to get a shutout. But
no. And
I also put Bryce on my slip, too, to take it over on his yards. So,
okay.
You know.
Well, there was one dude, I couldn't find the slip after. It was on Twitter, I feel like, and it was like the under on Drake London's yards, the over on Chuba rushing yards, Bryce Young first touchdown, and like a Panthers win. And the payout was a couple thousand. And he put like 100. I know, I was pissed. He put only like $100, $150 down. I never could find the guy on Twitter again to see if the whole slip went through. But from what I remember, it was like Kyle Pitts under two. Like
Kyle Pitts under's always hit.
And so it was a pretty good slip. But no, going with the Patriots, like, look, they're 1-2, right?
Yep.
You know, they lose to the Steelers.
Rough game. They fumbled the ball 4 times in that game.
Right.
Only lose by a touchdown. So they had chances. Mike Vrabel was gonna coach a good team.
Yeah.
Like that team's gonna be disciplined. They're gonna. I don't think they're gonna turn. They're not gonna have that.
No.
Back-to-back weeks. So.
They've been in every game, right? And they've lost to really only like dominant defensive head coaches in you know, not only obviously Mike Tomlin, but then also Pete Carroll. You know, they lose to the Raiders. They beat the Dolphins, and it took a lot for them to beat the Dolphins. So I think you got to get off the rush, because I think if you get Travion Henderson and having to look ahead, he's not going to be able to have the explosiveness that he's been able to provide. You know, if you get him on his heels, he's not going to be that ideal.
Right.
You know, Kyle Williams has been nothing for them.
Not yet. I mean, I think they just haven't found their footing with that group yet. And no, I mean, not only that, if you look at even how they won that Dolphins game, like Ramondre Stevenson had 5 catches for 88 yards.
Yeah.
So they don't necessarily know. Like, we know who their best receiving options are. It's Hunter Henry, Stephon Diggs as of right now. I will say the Hunter Henry matchup does cause for pause. Because who do you give that matchup to?
Well, see, they look at it, because in Arizona, Trey McBride had a slight impact, under 100 yards, no touchdowns.
Really, Colin Strange was the only guy that had, messed us up, honestly.
And then Kyle Pitts. I mean, I'm not going to put that much emphasis on it being Kyle Pitts because it's Kyle Pitts. So I think whether you put it in his own coverage, right? You could bring, Morig up on a swivel and try to have him shadow, right? So at the very least, if he's catching, because I believe that's kind of what they did for McBride. The minute he caught the ball, they had a body on him.
Right.
So he might have been open for a 5-7 yard gain, but he wasn't getting more after that. So if you have Morig on a shadow for him, and have him just put a lick on him the minute he catches the ball. Yeah. Because they're going to get a lot of a lot of dink and dunks. That's just what they're going to do. Outside of that, I think that you have to. I don't really know, because we still don't really have any effective coverage linebackers.
No.
Like, I've still, not seen anything from Roseboom to allow me to think that Wallace is purely just a rushing linebacker, in my opinion. He's more impactful on tackles for a loss or tackling by committee. They're not going to put in a Claudin, Chairless, or a Bam Martin Scott, and they're not going to have, DJ Wanham or Pat Jones really in coverage outside of the flats.
Right.
So I think you have to go with Morig. I liked the 3 safety set, and we talked about that. Like, if you're going to run it, run a damn near a nickel or a dime, right, where it doesn't have to be Charles Smith-Wade, although put the kid in.
Hell of a play, boy.
Hell of a play. He read that thing like a book. Almost didn't catch it.
Cat in the hat. He read that thing.
He did, and he looked, and it was great because you had I think it was Nick Scott at the top, like staring down and like kind of creating a false sense of security for Penix to force that ball in, and then Shaw jumps the route and takes it all the way in for the score. So I think you have to kind of continue to play that zone blitz, right? Like you talk the 3-4, overhand blitz, right? And you just blitz a cornerback coming off or an edge rusher coming off and then a linebacker over the middle. You keep, maybe you take an edge rusher one side, out to the flats.
Yep.
And then you allow for there to be some sort of bottlenecking in the middle of the field. and you let them catch, because that's pretty much what they did against the Falcons. Kyle Pitts would catch the ball, or Darnell Mooney would catch the ball, but they're getting hit right there.
Yeah,
they're not getting any farther. And then if you apply that bend don't break mentality while it works, and I mean, I'd like you to be a little bit more forceful with the blitz, right? But I understand why it wasn't like they were getting after him, and really Penix was just throwing the ball away.
Yeah, no, he got the ball. He got the ball out of there. But I just also didn't feel like Penix had enough time in the pocket. That was just an odd game from him. I mean,
I joked about it. Look, he played in Washington, right, in college, and then he plays in a dome in Atlanta. It was blistering out there. I just don't think he was ready for the heat. I mean, the turf was on fire. It was bright as all get out. It was louder than I think they thought. You heard the sleepy comments, right? They thought it was going to be a lot quieter in the bank.
Yeah.
And shout out to the fans for an 0-2 team. They showed out.
No, facts. I would say, and I know you said it during the pre-show when we were setting up, I was surprised by how many fans showed up for that game. I was worried that fans weren't going to come out. Fans were going to be dejected from the first 2 games, but the fans showed up. And, again, all I can tell this team is you go on the road and you beat New England. The fanfare you will come home to. These fans will be there. The only, like you said, like we said, the only games where they probably won't be there is gonna be for like the Cowboys games, because those fans probably travel better than any.
The
other
Cowboys
group.
and the Bills will be offhanded.
Yeah.
But you have an opportunity here. We talked about it. We said at the beginning that you really needed to go 2-2 was your worst that you could go here, and that was like, okay, you really can't go 2-2. 3-1 was what we thought. So you have the opportunity to go 2-2, like we said you could.
Mm-hmm.
Then you set yourself up. We've seen how it's gone through now. A dysfunctional Dolphins team, what looked like it could have been a loss at the beginning of the season, now can be a win, especially at home.
Yeah.
Micah Parsons-less and potentially CeeDee Lamb-less Cowboys team.
Got a chance.
That you do have a chance.
It's on the table.
Not especially what happened last year. Even with like the Jets, is still a little scary because they've shown they can come back in games that they shouldn't be in.
Yeah.
Whether it's Tyrod Taylor or Justin Fields. You're really dependent upon how you do against Garrett Wilson, to be honest. That's your biggest.
No, absolutely.
And then that's leading up to the Bills game. Like, you have the opportunity to get a good amount of wins in that stretch, in a stretch where we thought your window was a lot shorter. Again, not plug-in for the playoffs. No. I don't think it's an irresponsible viewpoint to have, and I don't think the team is ready for it, to be honest.
I'm just week to week with this group at this point, and let's see if you can figure it out.
And that's to say that, look, we've got praise for you now, but if you come out and pitch a goose egg against the Patriots –
yeah,
we're not in no soft city, so we're not gonna kick you to the curb. But the questions will return.
No, absolutely. I think all we're looking for, bro, is to build upon what we saw. Okay, like now, like hey, this didn't happen in week, 9, 10. We're in the early part of the season.
Yeah.
So how do you go about building on top of that? Can you going out into New England and getting a win? I think it won't silence questions, but it'll keep me at bay. And then you have the Dolphins coming in at home next week. Yeah, I think the fans will show up. I think you're gonna see a continuous growth within the fan base in terms of just coming out and supporting.
Absolutely, and I think like we talked that third week had been very, very like a lot of bad juju on it for Bryce, right? Yeah. That was, it'd be around that time the questions would start and then the benching would come up.
Yep.
So I think this was a great game for him to have. You continue and press upon that fact. And like you said, it's early on in the season, right? Like you'll build up that support and that, like understanding from your fan base that there is a plan in place. That's the thing I think is that you show that consistency and show that there is a method to the madness. And you're not just like, throwing darts in the dark.
Yeah.
Like build upon what you did well, run the ball more. Target who you need to target in terms of T-Mac, and when a man goes down, like we saw this week, when a player goes down, the guy that comes in can actually step up and play the position just as well as who he was coming in for. Like you saw with Cade Mays, Zavala continued to have good plays coming forward. The defense, like, you have Pat Jones go down, yeah. Scorton comes up firing on all cylinders. So continue to have that to show where you can, and we'll believe that you're building in the right direction, and you won't get this, dejected, all hope is lost fan base.
Yeah.
Because that's what you've been sitting at. It's not a soft fan base. You've been one of the worst teams since 2020, one of the worst teams since you've been bought by Tepper. So like the space for questioning is valid. Continue to play like this, the questions will reduce. It's as simple as that.
Oh, absolutely. I'm eager to see what type of game plan Canales and Navarro come out with. Still not you're not gonna have a great you're not gonna have a bona fide number 2 receiving option outside of T-Mac, which was like he's on pace to play.
Yeah.
How do you come out? How do you handle that? Do we see more Rico Dowdle and Chuba Hubbard? How do they go about handling that? Can Hunter Renfrow and Bryce Young get on the same page for once? I think once that connection gets together, it'll be great because that's another receiving option, another safety option for Bryce to be able to deal the ball to. But just questioning who's going to step up in here in week 4.
I really think, and this is the last thing I'll say on it, I really do think that there is a reason why T-Mac is here, and for whatever reason, Canales has just pigeonholed himself to calling plays the best solely for him. It seems like once he came in, the play calling for anybody else has gone to the wayside. Now, when Coker comes back, I'll have a different perspective depending upon how he calls plays for Coker. Because the way he's calling plays for Hunter don't, in my opinion, accentuate what he's good at. Like, you put him out in the flat, or you put him on like a deeper route, and he's going to get their hospital balls.
Yeah.
Like, his size, his speed, his route running ability is better spent inside the hash marks, right above the line, the line to gain. Same thing like I said with XL. I've said it. The screens, the out routes, they're not what we need to see from him. So, show me that you can. I mean, even from the tight end perspective, like, you're not seeing what we saw from the tight ends as far as play calling goes last year. Very few and far between plays. So, I hope to be, in a sense, this forces you to be a bit more creative with how to utilize. You can't just have it on T-Mac, especially if Kyle Duggar is playing. Like,
teams are going to get ready to take him away soon.
Right.
We're 3 games in, and I already know teams are game planning to take him away. So what will your answer to that be? I think that's
utilize Tremble and Evans, put Jimmy Horn on the field. Even if he's not, like, if he craps out, fine. At least we know what he can actually do on the field.
Right.
Like, find something way to do it, and to utilize your receivers the way that you told us, like a basketball team, you could. And then the questions will go down and the confidence will come up.
Yep.
Until then, keep pounding.